Everyone, so we're back with another video, and this time it's about the highly and ever requested French fade ombre or baby boomer, whichever you want to call it. It's all popular and I don't think it's going anywhere for a long time. So we're going to be showing you just a easy technique using the ombre brush. There are many techniques out there, but we're going to be showing you how to do it with the ombre brush, how to get the fastest ombre going, because you know it can take some time with gel polish, and also how to get the best result, kind of ending up with what I've got in my hand here. So this one's done with matte top coat and these two are done with the carbon top coat to give it the high shine finish, but the goal is to get to this point. So it's going to take practice, and I do hope that this technique is going to help you make it that much more easier. I'm going to touch on just a little bit of theory, because I think if I cover the theory with you, you'll understand why you may have been struggling and why your ombres may not have been working out exactly like you were hoping them to. So stay tuned and let's grab our goodies and do this together. And in the end, I hope you're going to share your images with us and you're going to get so much more joy out of doing your ombre nails. Right, so without further ado, let's get cracking. So I'm going to be doing the ombre using the higher intensity gels. So I'm going to touch on that in a second. So I'll be using Malibu and I'm going to be using Monte Rose. Then you could also use Sweet Cheeks as well. And then if you were wanting to do a lower intensity, you would be using something along the likes of So Vanilla and using Sweet 16. So you might be asking me, oh, Shams, what is the high intensity and low intensity? So when you do an ombre course, or if you do an ombre lesson like we used to do the Master Ombre course, we get involved and we get down to the nitty-gritty of the color wheel and it becomes very intensive. But to avoid that and to make things easy, I'm going to share with you my technique of, or let's call it the what I look for when I do an ombre. Intensity is all about the pigment in your gel. So high intensity pigments are these ones right here. They are packed with color. So in other words, if I use this pink, which is the Sweet Cheeks, you can see it's quite a solid pink. Malibu is the most solid white that we have in our range, and we have our Monte Rose, which is what I'll use for this demo, which is also quite a solid pink. So these have a lot of pigment. They give off a good color payoff when you work with them, as you can see. Then when we talk about low intensity, it means they're slightly more translucent, so they don't hold as much pigment as these gels do. So this is why when we say to you, you're getting wrinkling or your black's not doing what it's supposed to, a lot of people get their back up, because it's almost as if we're trying to tell them you don't know how to paint gel polish. That's actually the furthest thing from the truth. What we're saying to you is that the intensity of those pigments require that the layers be thinner and that you cure it 100%, meaning maybe cure it slightly longer and make sure that you're using the proper lamp, because it's all about making sure that you adapt yourself to how each gel works. So it's not about just painting them on and hoping for the best. So this is why knowing the intensity helps with ombre. So if we use this color over here, which is Sweet 16, Love Light would also be another low intensity, or we use So Vanilla, which is a sort of translucent milky white. They have less pigment. So what's going to happen is that usually when you work with lower intensity pigments, they ombre easier. So it happens faster and it's quicker. But your color payoff is softer. And if you work with the higher intensity gels, you've got more pigments to deal with. So your pigment's gonna, or I should say your ombre is gonna take a little bit more work. So you're gonna have to use the elbow grease and blend. Blend becomes your friend. And your color payoff though is much better. So people tend to give up when they use these gels on this end, but it's all about how to use them, which is what I'm going to share with you today, and makes things a little bit easier. So let me explain something else to you. So when we talk about gel polishes contain a lot of ingredients. So it contains like nitrocellulose, plasticizers, UV filters, UV stabilizers. There's all sorts of ingredients. So if this was a gel polish, let's call it a gel polish molecule, okay? So I will have all my little ingredients like I explained to you, and much more, like my plasticizers, viscosity modifiers, you name it, they're all in there, okay? That's my gel. Then what happens is we add pigments. So the pigments are actually completely separate things. So there are my pigments. So this one we're going to call Malibu, and this one, which is probably going to be like Sweet 16, because this is what we're planning to ombre, right? I'm going to add my pigment to this gel. And as you can see, the high intensity gel has more pigments, and the low intensity gel has less pigments. So now we need to blend these two to do our ombre, right? So if I brush, so imagine I'm using a brush and blending these two together. I'm taking my Sweet 16, the low intensity, and I'm blending it. And now I'm going to be using my Malibu, and I'm going to be adding that to my blend. And there's much more Malibu. What's going to happen is my Malibu is going to cancel out my low intensity gel, and I'm not going to get the desired effect of that ombre blend. So this is the whole reason why I would say try and keep your intensities the same. So keep your neons with your neons, your pastels with your pastels, your solid colors with solid colors, and your translucents with translucent gels. How you blend those colors is a whole other lesson, but you know what, with me and ombre, I don't get too technical. I don't think that I've never been one to stick to the rules when it comes to things like this. If you find colors that work for you, they work for you. But what does make a difference with ombre is keeping the pigment intensity the same, and that gives you the best result at the end of the day. So you can't really take a very solid color and mix it and blend it with a very translucent color. That's not going to give you the best results. You're just going to be sitting there blending and blending and blending, and it's just not going to be working, and you're going to end up getting frustrated like I did in the beginning. So I hope that this little brief explanation on how pigments work helps with the next step, which is the actual practical of blending these colors. So without further ado, let me show you how easy it is. I'm so excited because it really is easy. So let me show you how to do it, and hopefully it will be the light bulb moment, that aha moment, and yeah, and I'll be seeing lots more ombres online. So here we go with our blending lesson. So let's do this, guys. So I'm going to be using Monte Rose to do my ombre and Malibu. So that's the bright white, and it's a pretty solid pink. I also like doing it with Sweet Cheeks, because Sweet Cheeks is a little bit more milky and gives you a softer look. Now what I've done to save time is I've applied 2 coats of Monte Rose over the nail. So here's 2 coats of gel, cured each layer for 60 seconds. So now you might be asking me, why am I doing these coats on the nail like first? What am I up to? This is the cheap method of doing the ombre, because in the beginning you normally would do them layer by layer by layer. So you'd be going over it 3, 4, 5 times, and eventually I thought, look here, this is not working for me. There must be an easier way of doing this. So this acts as your base layer, and because your white is so intense in pigment, you're going to easily cheat the system. So I'm going to be doing my Monte Rose halfway on the top of the nail, coming down from the cuticle area, and I'm going to be adding my Malibu to the bottom of that, and I'm going to blend it. And that's going to be the one and only blend you are going to do, and your ombre will be complete. So no going back and forth like a crazy person. So I'm going to be doing the Monte Rose, And I'm going to be adding this to the top of my nail. So remember, the first 2 coats need to be nice and thin. So don't do like 2 massive thick layers. It's not going to cure properly. And you know, Murphy's Law, when you're doing a video, you're going to get a hair. Let's just get rid of that hair. That was now not very smart of me, putting it back at my bottle. But the struggle is real, guys. That's what makes this video real. So this is my Montrose. And I want you to see that I've got this like layer of gel there. So I can pull this down a little bit more if I don't want my ombre to be too high. So I'm just going to do it a fraction more. And you might be wondering, like, or saying that that's quite a bit of gel I'm putting on. It is fairly thicker than usual, but don't worry about it, because you're actually not going to end up with that thick layer, because I'm going to ombre or brush half of this product away. I just need that gel for blending. If it's too thin, you're not going to be able to blend anything. So now I'm adding my white below that line of pink. And do you see how solid this white is? So it actually covers up my pink base quite nicely. So it's not a stressful situation. My white's not going to become translucent, so you're not going to see any streaks of that pink showing through, as you can see on those there. So we're using this very technique. So I'm going to be using my rose gold ombre brush from Maskscara. And the one thing that I'm going to do is I always make sure that my bristles are nice and flat. Okay, so like they're together. And then starting in the pink, I'm going to move up a little bit closer so you can see me. I'm going to, let me just make sure that we're focused on what I'm doing. I'm going to start in my pink. You don't have to start all the way from the cuticle. And I'm going to move my gel down. So it's almost as if I am sweeping the pink gel forward. So it's kind of like the dirt before the broom method. I've got the product in front of my bristles. So my brush is behind that pink band. And I'm going to move in very short strokes, pushing the pink forward into the white. So when you watch those very high-paced clips on Insta, you kind of don't get the idea of what they're doing because they're doing it so fast. But I'm keeping my brush behind the pink all the time, and I'm now moving down into the white, and I'm still pushing the pink forward into the white, if that makes sense. And I'm going all the way down, so don't stop, because if you stop, you're going to get a line. And the whole thing of an ombre is to get a blend. So I'm just pushing all the way forward. And remember, you were probably in the beginning looking at that amount of gel. Can you see what's happening? I'm actually pushing that gel forward to the tip, and I'm going to be brushing that excess product right off the nail. And can you see how beautiful that blend looks already? It's like I don't even need to go over it twice. I just hope you can see and that the light is not blowing out the color. It's like the 4th time we're doing this video, by the way, because we tried to get the color as good as possible so you could actually see. So I'm going to go over it once more just to give it a final blend. Oh, let's try and do it this way so you can see. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a blend, pulling the pink through. Gently, just pulling it down all the way. Remember your brush behind the pink all the time. When you get to your white, it's quite an intense pigment. It's gonna show up, so you don't have to worry about it disappearing. And making sure you pull that excess gel away. And that's your ombre, done in like 2 little brush strokes. And it gives you the perfect intensity. So if you see anything that troubles you, like little spots, you can touch it with your brush and just gently, but try not to fiddle with it too much, because sometimes when we go back and fiddle, we mess it up. Don't worry, your gel self-levels. So a lot of the brush strokes, give it a minute, just let it stand for a minute, and then you will see a lot of your gel flatten out on its own. And I'm going to cure this for 60 seconds, and then we are going to top coat it. Right, so we're back for our top coat, and I'm going to use the Velvet Matte top coat for this. You can use your carbon top coat, your non-white top coat. It all depends on the finish that you want, but I've got all the finishes for you to view as well. I just thought we'd go with carbon just to give it that sort of dreamy finish. And I have a saying about top coats. Top coats are like the filter for nails. So even when you see the slightest imperfection or uneven surface or little brush marks, do not panic about it, because your top coat is actually the product that finishes, seals, and hides a lot of the little things that you thought might cause imperfections. So that's my top coat on, and you can see it's looking quite amazing. And I'm going to cure this one for 60 seconds as well. And there we go, everybody. There is our pink and white ombre with a matte finish. So just to show you, it's not that difficult. It's all about finding ways to make it work for you. So I have found that doing it this way has been like the easiest thing since sliced bread. So it's easy just to paint your base and then do your pink and white. This method works for doing the pink and white ombre. Let me just stress this. When you're dealing with different colors, you might have to adjust your technique where you're actually going to have to do double coats. But we will be doing more videos on doing color ombre. So I think we'll do some neons next, and I'll show you how I work with neon ombres. But seeing that the pink and white is the most popular one, and especially the highly requested wedding nail, I thought let me show you a really stress-free way to do it. This method requires practice. So if you don't get it right the first time, try again. Rome was not built in a day, and I promise you it took me a good few tries to master the technique of getting it down to this fine art. So it's not difficult. It just takes practice, and it just takes a little bit of doing things the easy way around. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that we're going to see some of those ombres being posted online. Remember to tag us, and if you liked this video, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We plan on posting as much as we possibly can to keep you up to date with the latest trends and to help you with all the latest techniques as well. So I hope you enjoyed it, everybody. I certainly enjoyed sharing this technique with you, and have a good rest of the day, and we'll see each other real soon.